The Discovery. The stars were silent witnesses to the horizon's approach through the uncharted sector. Captain Alina Reeves stood on the bridge, her dark eyes reflecting the glow of countless distant suns as she watched the main view screen. The object had appeared on their long-range scanners 3 days ago, a massive structure drifting in the void between systems, far from any charted worlds or trade routes. Still no response to our hails, Captain, reported Communications Officer Devon Park, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Alina nodded, tucking a strand of silver-streaked hair behind her ear. After 20 years of exploration missions, she'd learned that true discoveries rarely announce themselves with fanfare. Continue broadcasting on all frequencies. Let's make sure they know we come in peace. Do you think anyone's still aboard? Asked Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen, the ship's executive officer, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Scan results suggest it's been adrift for a very long time, replied Science Officer Dr. Elijah Washington, studying the incoming data with furrowed brows. The hull composition doesn't match any known civilization's materials, and the radiation signature is. He trailed off, adjusting parameters on his console. Captain, according to these readings, this vessel has been out here for approximately 75,000 years. A murmur rippled through the bridge crew. The oldest known spacefaring species besides humanity, the hegemony, had achieved interstellar flight barely 5,000 years ago. Even Earth's first faster-than-light vessel had launched less than 2 centuries past. Are you certain? Alina asked, fighting to keep her voice level despite the excitement coursing through her veins. The dating is consistent across multiple methods, Elijah confirmed. Captain, this could be the greatest archaeological find in human history. Alina's mind raced with the implications. A ship predating all known civilizations meant someone else had been traveling the stars when humans were still living in caves. Tactical assessment, Lieutenant Rhodes. Tactical Officer Zoe Rhodes straightened at her station. The vessel appears dormant, Captain. No energy signatures, no defensive systems online. Size comparison indicates it's roughly 1.5 times larger than our largest Terran dreadnoughts. Structure suggests it was built for deep space exploration rather than combat. Alina made her decision. Prepare a boarding team. I want Commander Chen leading the expedition. Full environmental suits and standard first contact protocols. Captain, Elijah interjected, with all due respect, we should approach with extreme caution. We know nothing about. I'm well aware of the risks, Doctor, Alina replied firmly. But this is what the Horizon was built for, to seek out the unknown, and I intend to be on that boarding team. Maya's eyes widened. Captain, regulations clearly state that the captain should use discretion when determining away team composition. Alina finished with a slight smile. And in my discretion, I'm going. You have the bridge, Commander Washington. 30 minutes later, Alina stood in the shuttle bay with her boarding team. 6 crew members, including herself, all encased in the sleek white environmental suits that had become the symbol of human exploration efforts. The team's helmets featured the latest in augmented reality display technology, capable of instantaneous translation of any known language and real-time data sharing. Stay sharp, Alina instructed as they boarded the shuttle. We have no idea what we're walking into. The journey to the ancient vessel took less than 10 minutes. Up close, the true scale of the ship became apparent. A massive structure of smooth, dark material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the shuttle's searchlights. There were no obvious seams or rivets, as though the entire hull had been grown or poured rather than assembled. Curved protrusions extended at seemingly random intervals, giving the ship an organic, almost coral-like appearance. There, called Ensign Patel from the pilot's seat, what looks like an entry point on the starboard side. The opening was a perfect circle, large enough to accommodate their shuttle with room to spare. Alina felt a chill that had nothing to do with the environmental suit's temperature control. The entrance looked like a mouth, waiting to swallow them whole. Atmosphere readings, she asked. Complete vacuum. replied Lieutenant Kowalski, monitoring the sensor readouts. Temperature just above absolute zero. With practiced precision, Ensign Patel maneuvered the shuttle through the opening and into what appeared to be a vast hangar bay. The shuttle's lights cut through the darkness, revealing walls of the same seamless material as the exterior. The floor was perfectly flat, with no visible docking mechanisms or support structures. "It's like they just set their ships down," murmured Dr. Levine, the team's xenoarchaeologist. After securing the shuttle, the team disembarked, their magnetic boots connecting with the floor with a series of soft clicks. Alina activated her suit's external lights, casting a bright beam ahead as she took the first steps onto the deck of the ancient vessel. "Horizon, this is Captain Reeves. We've successfully entered what appears to be a hangar bay. Beginning preliminary exploration now." The team moved through the ship in formation, documenting everything with their suit cameras. The corridors branched and converged in patterns that seemed to follow some alien logic. Some passages so narrow they had to proceed single file, others expanding into vast chambers with ceilings that disappeared into darkness above their lights. "These proportions make no sense for humanoid occupants," Dr. Levine observed as they entered a room with tiered platforms arranged in concentric circles. Either the builders had a radically different physiology, or what, Doctor? Alina prompted. "Or the ship wasn't designed for crew at all," Levine finished. "At least, not as we understand the concept." They continued deeper into the vessel, finding more chambers but no obvious control systems, no personal quarters, no evidence of the beings who had built it. After nearly an hour of exploration, they discovered something different. A spherical room approximately 20 meters in diameter. Embedded in the walls were crystalline formations that caught and refracted their lights in mesmerizing patterns. "Captain, I'm detecting faint energy signatures," Kowalski reported, adjusting her scanner. "It's coming from these crystal structures." Alina approached one of the larger crystals, a blue-white formation about the size of her palm. As she drew near, she could have sworn it pulsed slightly, like a heartbeat. "Captain, I wouldn't," Dr. Levine began, but Alina had already reached out, her gloved hand hovering just above the crystal surface. A sudden warmth spread through her fingers despite the insulation of her suit. The crystal brightened, illuminating with an inner light that spread to adjacent formations. Around the room, other crystals began to glow in sequence, creating a rippling wave of light that traveled around the sphere. "Everyone back to the shuttle. Now," Alina ordered, pulling her hand away. But it was too late. The floor beneath them vibrated gently as systems long dormant began to hum to life. The crystal she had touched pulsed brighter, and Alina felt a strange sensation, like someone was gently probing her mind, curious but not invasive. "Captain, what's happening?" Maya's voice came through the comm from the horizon. Before Alina could answer, a holographic display materialized in the center of the room. Star charts and symbols in an unknown language flowing in three-dimensional patterns. "It's activating," breathed Elijah through the comm link, monitoring from the horizon. "The entire ship is powering up." As the energy signatures grew stronger, something else happened. Alina felt a presence, ancient and vast, brushing against her consciousness. In that moment, she knew with certainty that the ship wasn't merely a vessel. It was alive in some fundamental way. "Captain, we're detecting another ship entering the sector," Maya reported, her voice tense. It's massive, and it's heading straight for us at high speed." "Identification?" Elena asked, her eyes still fixed on the dancing lights. "The signature matches hegemony warship classifications," Maya replied. "It's the Iron Stormblade, their newest dreadnought." The hegemony, a coalition of 3 technologically advanced species that controlled nearly a third of known space. Relations with humanity had been cold but stable for decades, maintained by careful diplomacy and mutual wariness. "Time to intercept?" Elena asked, already moving toward the exit, gesturing for her team to follow. 38 minutes at current velocity. They're pushing their engines hard, Captain. They must have detected the energy signature when the ship activated, Kowalski suggested as they hurried back toward the hangar bay. Elena nodded grimly. And they're not coming to exchange scientific notes. As they reached the shuttle, Elena felt the strange presence touch her mind again. Stronger this time, more focused. A series of images flashed through her consciousness. Stars exploding, worlds burning. And through it all, massive ships like the one they stood in, standing as guardians against some ancient darkness. Captain, Dr. Levine was looking at her with concern. Are you all right? Elena blinked, the vision fading. Yes. Let's get back to the horizon. We need to prepare for company. As their shuttle departed the ancient vessel, the crystals throughout the ship pulsed in unison, a silent awakening after millennia of slumber. Deep within its core, systems designed by a civilization long vanished from the galaxy began to assess the current situation, analyzing the genetic makeup of the beings who had discovered it and the approaching threat. The ancient ship had been patient. It had waited more than 70,000 years for the right inheritors to find it. Now that they had, it would fulfill its purpose. The hegemony warship, impressive by current galactic standards, but primitive compared to the technologies of its creators, would soon learn why the ancient guardians had once been feared throughout the stars, and humanity would discover its unexpected inheritance. The awakening. The Horizon's bridge was a flurry of activity as Elena emerged from the decontamination chamber. Tactical displays showed the rapidly approaching hegemony warship, the Iron Stormblade, a behemoth of gleaming metal and weaponry that dwarfed their exploration vessel. Status report, Elena demanded, taking her place in the captain's chair. The hegemony vessel will intercept in 22 minutes, Maya reported. They've ignored our hails. And the ancient ship. Elijah looked up from his station. Energy levels continuing to rise, Captain. Whatever you triggered down there, it's spreading throughout the entire structure. We're detecting movement now. Sections of the hull are shifting, reconfiguring. Elena nodded, the memory of the strange mental connection still vivid. Defensive options. Zoe Rhodes looked grim. Limited, Captain. The Horizon wasn't built for combat. Against the Iron Stormblade. She left the sentence unfinished. We have two options, Elena stated, addressing the entire bridge. Retreat to the nearest UEF outpost and risk the hegemony claiming the ancient vessel for themselves, or stay and attempt diplomatic contact when they arrive. Captain, Elijah interjected, there's something else you should know. I've been analyzing the radiation signature from the ancient ship. It contains particles consistent with theoretical models of temporal manipulation. In plain English, Doctor, I believe this ship may have traveled through time, Captain. It's not just from another civilization. It might be from another era entirely. A hush fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. If true, the technology aboard could rewrite the balance of power throughout known space, especially if it fell into hegemony hands. We're staying, Elena decided. Prepare to open communications when they arrive, and continue monitoring the ancient vessel. 18 minutes later, the Iron Stormblade dropped out of FTL on the opposite side of the ancient ship. Its design reflected the hegemony aesthetic. Angular, intimidating, bristling with weapons ports and sensor arrays. Where human ships favored streamlined efficiency, hegemony vessels were built to project power and instill fear. They're scanning us, Devon reported. And the ancient ship. Multiple targeting systems have locked onto the horizon. Open a channel, Elena ordered, straightening in her chair. The main view screen flickered, revealing the bridge of the Iron Stormblade. A Vexta-car stood at its center, tall, imposing, with iridescent scales covering a humanoid frame and 4 amber eyes that regarded Elena with cold calculation. Grand Admiral Vorex, commander of the hegemony's 3rd Fleet and a veteran of their expansionist campaigns. Captain Reeves, the admiral's voice was deep, his translator rendering his speech with perfect clarity. You have intruded upon a sector of special interest to the hegemony. You will withdraw immediately. Elena met his gaze steadily. Admiral Vorex, this sector lies outside established hegemony territory, according to the Treaty of Proxima. The ancient vessel we've discovered represents a significant archaeological find that could benefit all spacefaring species. Vorex's upper lip curled in what might have been amusement or contempt. Your exploration vessel was not built to make such determinations. The relic clearly contains advanced technology that falls under hegemony security protocols. We will assume stewardship. The vessel activated when we boarded it, Elena countered. It seems to respond specifically to human presence. Perhaps it's meant for us. The Admiral's 4 eyes narrowed. A convenient claim. Humanity has always been quick to appropriate what does not belong to them. He leaned forward. You have 10 minutes to depart. After that, we will consider your presence an act of aggression. The transmission cut, leaving the bridge in silence. Well, that went about as expected, Zoe remarked dryly. Options? Elena asked. We could try to outrun them, Maya suggested. The Horizon's engines are newer. We might be able to. Captain. Elijah interrupted, his voice urgent. The ancient ship, it's moving. All eyes turned to the view screen. The massive dark vessel was indeed in motion, rotating slowly to position itself between the Horizon and the Iron Stormblade. Are we controlling it? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. No, Captain, Elijah replied softly. It's acting independently. The ancient ship continued its purposeful movement, sections of its hull rippling and reforming. Protrusions that had seemed decorative extended, revealing themselves as some form of weaponry or defense system. The hegemony is powering up weapons, so reported. They're targeting the ancient vessel. Warn them off, Elena ordered. Tell them to stand down. We don't know what that ship is capable of. But before Devon could transmit the message, the Iron Stormblade fired, a barrage of energy weapons striking the ancient ship's hull. The attack should have caused significant damage, but they dissipated harmlessly against the dark material. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal formations throughout the ancient vessel pulsed in unison, a ripple of blue-white energy washing over its surface. A single beam of concentrated energy, so pure it appeared almost liquid, lanced out, striking the Iron Stormblade with surgical precision. The hegemony warship shields flickered and failed instantly. A second pulse followed, slicing through the vessel's command section with terrifying accuracy. Secondary explosions bloomed along its hull as systems overloaded. My God, someone whispered on the Horizon's bridge. The Iron Stormblade, pride of the hegemony fleet, began to list to one side, power fluctuations visible throughout its structure. It had been neutralized in seconds. Elena felt the familiar touch in her mind. The ancient ship, communicating in images and emotions rather than words. She saw flashes of a civilization far more advanced than any currently known, a people who had seeded the galaxy with guardians before their departure to another realm of existence. It's a protector, she said aloud, understanding flowing through her. Built to watch over developing civilizations, to prevent advanced technology from being misused. It's been waiting for a species with the right compatibility. Captain, Devon called, we're receiving a transmission from the Iron Stormblade. Admiral Vorex is requesting immediate assistance. Their life support is failing. Elena hesitated only briefly. Prepare medical teams and inform them we're sending help. She turned to Maya. Have shuttles ready for rescue operations. Captain, Zoe protested. These are the same people who were ready to fire on us moments ago. And now they're people in distress. Elena replied firmly. That's all that matters. The rescue operation proceeded swiftly. The Iron Stormblade's crew, including Admiral Vorex, were evacuated to the Horizon and temporary shelters established in cargo bays. The once proud admiral was noticeably subdued as he was escorted to the bridge. Why? He asked simply, looking at Elena with all 4 eyes. You could have left us to die. Because that's not who we are, she answered. And it's not what those who built the ancient vessel would have wanted. Elena felt the mental presence again, stronger now, almost as if the ship approved of her decision. "The vessel," Vorex said, looking at the view screen where the ancient ship hung in space, its crystal formations pulsing with steady light. "It could have destroyed us completely." "But it didn't," Elena pointed out. "It disabled your weapons and command systems with precision. I think it was sending a message." Vorex's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of deep thought among the Vextakar. "What happens now, Captain Reeves?" Before Elena could answer, Elijah called out from his station. "Captain, I've managed to partially translate some of the data being transmitted by the ancient vessel. It's remarkable." Elijah activated the main display, which filled with streams of information. Star charts, technological schematics, biological data. "From what I can interpret, the ship is one of many guardians left behind by a species that called themselves the progenitors. They seeded countless worlds with life before departing our galaxy approximately 75,000 years ago. And they left these ships behind us." "What? Caretakers?" Maya asked. "More like guides," Elijah explained, "waiting for species that evolved along certain paths to reach a level of technology where they could be entrusted with the progenitor's legacy." "And it chose humans?" Vorex asked, disbelief evident in his voice. Elena smiled slightly. "Not exactly. According to the data, the Guardians respond to specific genetic markers present in both humans and, interestingly, in one of the species within the hegemony. The Talarians, I believe." Vorex's scales flushed a deeper color, surprise, perhaps even shock. "The Talarians are the youngest species in our coalition. They only achieved spaceflight 3 centuries ago. Which might explain why the Guardian targeted your command section, but left the rest of your ship intact," Elena suggested. "It recognized potential inheritors aboard. The implications hung in the air between them." The ancient division between human and hegemony interests suddenly seemed small against the backdrop of what they had discovered. "Captain," Elijah continued, "the Guardian is transmitting coordinates, locations of other Guardians throughout the galaxy, and technological information beyond anything we currently possess. Clean energy systems, medical advances, propulsion theories that would make our current FTL drives look primitive." Elena turned to Vorex. "Admiral, I propose a joint mission. The Horizon and representatives from the Iron Stormblade, working together to understand what we've been given. This knowledge wasn't meant for humans alone, or for the hegemony. It was meant for all who are ready to receive it." Vorex was silent for a long moment, the calculation evident in his amber eyes. Finally, he inclined his head slightly. "The Hegemony Council will need to be consulted. But speaking for myself, I find your proposal has merit, Captain Reeves." As they spoke, the Guardian ship pulsed again, a gentle reminder of its presence and purpose. Elena felt its approval like a warm current in her mind. Whatever the progenitors had intended when they departed the galaxy, this moment, different species setting aside their differences in the face of a greater legacy, might have been exactly what they hoped for. The ancient ship that no one had feared, until it obliterated the mighty Iron Stormblade, hadn't come to destroy. It had come to unite, to guide, and to elevate. And as Elena looked from the hegemony admiral to her human crew, she knew they stood at the threshold of a new era for all spacefaring civilizations. The journey had just begun.